When shooting these videos for you guys, I really try hard to get pretty much everything that I can doing the installation so that you can see exactly how to take things apart, put things back together, and if I run into trouble, I can show you that too. This particular video that I was working on, actually the whole installation of the exhaust system, taking it apart, putting it back on, and the injectors. Sometimes I ended up shooting some of the stuff where I thought I was recording when it wasn't, and different things were happening. So I still want to explain things that were going on. I didn't even realize this until I started editing. So I still want to explain some of the things going on that I might have missed on the video, so at least you kind of have an understanding of what to look for and what happened if there's pieces missing. So you're going to see me pop up every once in a while during the video, kind of explaining that kind of stuff. Hey everybody, Mike here. Welcome to my channel. And as you probably know, I have a lot of work that I'm going to be doing this weekend, putting on a dual exhaust from a Redline, high flow catalytic converter, and the new fuel injectors, the larger fuel injectors, along with a tune from RPM Motorsports and Martin Scott. So I got everything packed up. I'm actually heading about 3 hours away from here. A friend of mine, we're going to do it at his place, just so he can kind of help me out, and we're getting ready to go.
Two hours later.
No, that's all right. Okay, so I have everything laid out on the toolbox here. I got my catalytic converter, got some metric tools in the bag here, along with some sockets, wrenches, and I have the O2 oxygen sensor socket. And here's the two oxygen sensors I'm going to be replacing. There's the extender, and here's one of the tips that I'm going to be putting on the exhaust at the end, and my drink that I need. And in this bag here is actually part of the Stage 2 kit that Martin Scott actually sells. I don't want to show that. Oh, then I'm also going to be changing the manual transmission fluid. So I got my fluid there, and then over here is the dual exhaust Redline that we'll be installing. So as soon as Kyle gets here, we're going to go ahead and get started and put it up on the ramps. Okay, anytime you're going to lift it up on a jack, make sure you have your lift puck, and it actually goes in. Let's see if I can show you here. It's right here, and you just turn it, and it's in place, and then we'll jack it up. Okay, so here we have the heat shield for the exhaust manifold, and down here we have the upstream O2 sensor, and then way down in there, you probably can't see it, is the downstream O2 sensor. So what we need to do is take off the heat shield, and then our catalytic converter is actually right down in there. So it's probably hard to see, but it's down in there. So we're going to take off this heat shield, and then take off the O2 sensor, take off the catalytic converter bolts on the top here, and then we can go underneath and do the same thing down there, take off that O2 sensor and the bolts that are holding down there as well. Okay, for some reason, and this we have this bracket here. I'm not sure what it holds on, but it's not holding anything up. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. It's going to make it a lot easier to get off this heat shield. Oh, there's always one. Whenever I was working on the heat shield, I was able to unscrew the first two bolts, but then when I went to unscrew the third one, it was in there so tight that the head actually ripped off. So I took the heat shield off. Unfortunately, the bolt is still in there without the head, in the exhaust manifold without the head. I'm just going to leave it in there. In fact, when I reinstalled it, I only used the 2 bolts to hold it on there as well. So that I thought I was recording whenever I was taking the heat shield off, but unfortunately I wasn't, so I kind of missed that part. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the video. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead for these catalytic converter bolts. I'm going to spray this PB Blaster stuff on there and hopefully be able to get them a little bit looser. Let me see. So after spraying the catalytic converter bolts, we basically went under and we started working on removing the O2 sensor from the exhaust, as well as removing the bolts from the exhaust and the catalytic converter. We actually used some of the PB Blaster lubricant on all those bolts, as well as the O2 sensor, and they were still kind of difficult to take off, as you're going to see. Well, the good news is, if it breaks, it don't matter. Because I'll have another one anyway. We're putting in the new one.
Yeah.
Shit. Yep. Knuckle buster. We got the O2 sensor out, and now we have to go and disconnect the exhaust pipe from the catalytic converter. Oh, that's easier, I think.
Yeah.
Huh?
You got one number, 31.
Wow.
Yeah.
You need to, I got glasses. There we go. Alright, and we got the exhaust off of the catalytic converter. Now we just got to drop it from the back. Okay, I hit them with some WD-40, and I'm going to go ahead and use some channel locks here and see if I can get them to come off these hangers. There's one there, and hopefully I'm not blocking the camera, but let's see if I can get this one as well without having the exhaust or the muffler fall on my head. And there we go. Okay, those two are loose. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. Alright, so since we're going to have the exhaust off, we're going to go ahead and change the tranny fluid as well. That requires just taking this pan off. which is just some simple bolts that are being held on with. So we're gonna go ahead and drop that off, or drop that down, and then there should be a drain plug and a fill plug, and that should be something simple. You got it?
Yep.
So now there should be a drain. Is there a drain hole? Yeah, there you go. And there should be one on the top. It's the fill. So unfortunately we weren't able to get a good shot of the fill and the drain holes for the manual transmission. However, the fill hole is pretty easy to find. It's actually the bolt you'll see, and right below that is going to be stamped on the actual transmission the weight of the transmission fluid that you want to put inside there. So if you see that, in that little bit of information, that's the fill hole, and then below that is the drain hole. Careful. There it is. So when changing the transmission fluid on your manual transmission, there's a couple of washers that you need for the drain plug and the fill plug. And this is one of the washers right here. And this little piece of metal is like 15 bucks. I couldn't believe it. But you know what? They said recommended to change it, so I went and I bought 2 of them, and that's what I'm going to do. So it's up to you whether you want to change it or not. The ones that are on the bolts now that we dropped out of there, they don't look too bad a condition. I probably could have just reused those, and even some people on Facebook said you can reuse them, but you know what? I don't need anything to leak, and I don't need to tear anything back out again, so I just went ahead and just paid the money and got the washers. So we're going to go ahead and install them. Oops. It's 2 of these and more. Alright, so we got the transmission fluid replaced, and now we're just putting a cover shield back on. The catalytic converter, you'll see on the bottom there's a bracket, and there's a bolt that it connects that catalytic converter to that bracket. So you definitely want to remove that bolt. You won't see it in the video, but we actually sprayed some PB Blaster on that bolt as well. Once you remove that bolt, then it kind of frees up the bottom of the catalytic converter, and then you can go and work on the top to release those bolts, or you could do the top ones first and then the bottom one second. But you just have to make sure you take that bolt out of the bracket that's on the frame there.
Like a damn charm.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
So now we had to just take out the bolt that holds the catalytic converter onto the bracket, and after some lubrication, it came out actually pretty easily.
Bolt on top. Take those out. We'll be good to go.
Oh, that's a good one. Got loose?
Yeah. God.
Wow, the suckers are tight.
but
It seemed to work. We don't have to twist it.
no. I told you I thought it'd go straight out the damn bottom.
Oh, good thing I wasn't underneath there ready to catch it.
Yeah. You had a damn black eye.
All right. Catalytic converter is off. All right, since we're taking everything apart anyway, we're gonna go ahead and change the O2 sensor as well, or at least try. Oh, there we go, it came off, or came loose.
Fairly easy.
Yeah, that one came out a lot easier than the other one. And then you just have to unclip it.
I don't want to wad those wires out.
That unclip.
No, I need to unclip it and then take it out.
Alright, after putting some anti-seize stuff on there, which actually came with it, we have the new one installed and we'll just have to plug it back in.
Once that's connected, then you take this blue tab right here and it shoves through the back of it for safety so that it can't
go anywhere. Alright. The downstream O2 sensor plug is actually attached to the frame. It has a little rubber piece that almost looks like an arrowhead that is pushed into a small hole that's part of the frame. So if you really tug on that, you'll pop that out of that hole, and then it'll free up the plug so you can go ahead and disconnect the O2 sensor plug from the wiring harness plug. And then once you have those disconnected, then you can go ahead and just drop the wire for the O2 sensor down. And then whenever you're going to reattach the new O2 sensor wire, you just plug them back in. There's actually a little tether part that you'll see in the video as well. And then just make sure you pop that plug back into the frame because that kind of holds it there so it doesn't go flying around everywhere.
So you pull the blue clip out. Since they come with no screw heads, you pull that out. And then you just unclip it. Then when you clip it back in and you put the new one on, and you put this little clip back through
down there.
And then the new one
Shoves it back in that hole.
Yeah.
Alright, so we got the old catalytic converter off, got the new O2 sensor plugged in there. The other O2 sensor, we're going to wait until we get the exhaust on because we have to do an O2 extender. And then we're going to install it on there first, and then once the exhaust is on, then we'll go ahead and feed the cable up and plug it in to its socket. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up this video showing you how to uninstall your exhaust system, including the catalytic converter and the O2 sensors, and then also installing the O2 sensor back into the exhaust manifold. So the next video I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put everything back together, and also I'm going to show you how to install new fuel injectors into the engine. These are actually larger fuel injectors as well. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to it in the description, and then also I'm going to try to put it up on the top up here to make it easier for you to see as well. So hopefully you liked this video. If you did, please smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that little bell next to the subscribe. That way you'll be notified of any videos that I come up with in the future. And for now, I am done.